Joining us now, Congressman, 10th District Republican Barbara Comstock. Congresswoman, great to have you with us.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Yesterday, Vice President Mike Pence not only endorsed you in the primary, but he did a robocall for you. May we play it?
Sure you can. Actually, it was Saturday, but sure.
Saturday? Well, that's what I meant, Saturday, right? Saturday, Sunday, weekend.
Vice President Mike Pence calling on behalf of Comstock for Congress to encourage you to vote for my friend and your Congresswoman, Barbara Comstock, in the Republican primary on June the 12th. Barbara Comstock is a strong, effective conservative leader who has stood with us to cut taxes, rebuild our military, and she passed legislation to crack down on MS-13 illegal gang members that President Trump is already committed to sign as soon as it reaches his desk. She's been endorsed by the pro-life Susan B. Anthony list and the NRA, and she needs your vote to show that we aren't going to let the Democrats win this seat and turn the Congress back over to Nancy Pelosi. So please join me, Vice President Mike Pence, in supporting Barbara Comstock for Congress, and remember to vote on June the 12th.
Paid for and authorized by Comstock for Congress.
Congresswoman, that is a pretty strong robocall, and you get a robocall in a primary from the sitting Republican vice president. I would say that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, we were thrilled to have the vice president supporting us. He also gave me a call on Saturday morning. I was actually, unfortunately, at the funeral of a wonderful Republican legend in Virginia, John Gregory, who was a pillar of the Manassas, Virginia community, built that community, literally built buildings, houses, 100 churches throughout the region. And I was there honoring his great legacy. He was 96 years old, and God bless him for everything he had done for Virginia and for Manassas. When I got out of the funeral, the vice president had called, and they know that I've been targeted, as you've mentioned, by the Democrats. Of course, I have been targeted all the 6 races that I've run and won, and they want to make sure they have the strongest folks on the field. So I'm happy to be able to go around and talk in my district about the importance of tax cuts. I am the only candidate on the Democrat side or the Republican side who's voted to cut taxes, not just once, but repeatedly. When I was in the State House, I passed tax cuts that are helping our counties, things like our data center tax cuts that are, reaping all kinds of business rewards and tax rewards for our entire region. And now with the tax cuts we passed, we know they're working, and we have new jobs, the economy's growing. Families have more money in their pockets. And my Democrat opponents, all of them, every single one, no matter who comes out of there, they've already promised to repeal the tax cuts. Jennifer Wexton, they asked her, what's your weakness? And she said, oh, well, I'm a tax and spend liberal. Well, I agree. She is. And so are the other ones. You had the guy who's running who compared the president to Osama bin Laden. So we have a really liberal group on the other side, but they're going to be well funded. And that's why they know they need a candidate like me who's been tested. I've lived in the region for over 35 years. Nobody else comes even close by decades. And I know every part of this district, their businesses, the schools, the universities, our government employees that I've worked with, our law enforcement from the national to the federal, to the state and to the local. I'm working with our sheriffs on opioid addiction and human trafficking and certainly MS-13. And that's something the vice president and I talked about, my bill that I passed last week that'll be awaiting the president's signature when he gets back.
Tell us about that MS-13 bill, Barbara.
Well, we put together 2 bills because last year when we realized there were, over the past, at the end of the Obama administration, they were really dwindling and drawing down the resources for our regional gang task forces. And the Northern Virginia Regional Gang Task Force came to other members, but, talked to me about this, and we really took it to heart. We went on a ride-along with them to see, the resources they need and what they do in community policing in the neighborhoods, identifying MS-13 threats, getting them out of our communities, being able to work with ICE to make sure they're removed and removed quickly. So the bill that passed last week is the bill to give more. It's Project Safe Neighborhoods bill to provide more money for community policing, but with 30% of that money dedicated to regional gang task forces in the top regions that are having MS-13 threats, and that would include the Washington metropolitan area and our area that is, has an estimated, 2,000 or more MS-13 gang members. Fortunately, the administration over the past year and a half has, been dedicated to, eradicating that gang membership, getting them out of the country and picking them up where they can. But the gang task forces need more resources. So we worked. I got bipartisan support. Senator Cornyn on the Senate side got the bill through. So it is now awaiting the president's signature. And the vice president and I were talking about, the needed resources there. And so he was happy to see that coming their way.
All right, so the White House says the president is going to sign it, so it is going to be law. We appreciate your hard work on that. I think it's going to make a difference on MS-13, no question, in your region. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We are with Republican Congresswoman, 10th District, Virginia, Northern Virginia, Barbara Comstock. Congresswoman,
I should mention I do have a second MS-13 gang bill that is the Criminal Gang Alien Removal Act, which the administration also supports. They've put out a statement already saying they would sign that bill when it comes to the president's desk.
Right.
That has gone through the House, bipartisan support again. They're waiting the Senate, so we are going to be pushing that too.
Congresswoman, let's get to the secret meeting in the basement on Thursday. Are you one of the 25 Republicans that have signed up to get DACA on the floor as a clean amnesty bill?
No, I am not. I've not signed on to the discharge petition, and I haven't done that historically at all because it hands the floor over to the Democrats. And so I think one of the advantages of being in the majority is you want to decide what bills go to the floor. You do all that negotiating, bargaining beforehand, so we put the best possible bill on the floor that can get 218 votes. And so that still needs to be worked on. The president had his outlines of what he wanted, and the president put forward a compromise. And I know as I've had DACA recipients or people coming to my office and often protesting and wanting a clean, they ask for a clean DACA bill. I asked them, the actual, people who are here under DACA, I said, would you mind if we have border security and if we put money for border security in that, like the president said? And they say, oh, I'm okay with that. Now, sometimes their handlers, the Democrat activists who come with them, are like, wait a minute, don't say that. But that is, that was what the president put forward. I think that's smart, as well as other reforms that we still need to have. And we are still working on that. So the process is going forward. And I do think we're going to get a compromise. I don't think we're there yet. But I do think we can get something that will, but it has to focus on border security and changing some of the, so that we have immigration that's based on our economic needs and what is good for, growing our economy, good for the country.
So it sounds like, Congresswoman, that you're in favor of at least some of the president's long-term immigration reform measures, which would include border security, obviously, funding for the wall, and then also getting rid of chain migration, making it an economic-based system where basically if you have, I always use this example, if you're a pipe fitter from Somalia and we have a need for pipe fitters, you simply go to the top of the line because we know if you come here, you're going to get a job, you're going to be in need, and everybody wins. And also getting rid of the visa lottery system. Are those principles that you would be able to live with?
Yes, well, and that's what we voted on already. I voted for funding for the wall and for border security. I have voted against sanctuary cities, and I voted to have, that's the MS-13 bill that I have proposed, the Criminal Alien Gang Removal Act. Mm-hmm. That is, part of this whole effort to really do an immigration system based on what serves our needs first, keeps our country safe, but also economically. We go to, our businesses, you have agriculture concerns, you have technology concerns, and everybody's working together to try and find something that's going to work that is in our interest first. And that's a sensible way of of working on this. And I've said that since I ran in 2014. The surveys I filled out, I said, let's do border security first. That has to be an important part and an essential part, or the whole system won't stand up. But and then you have to make a system that works, that rewards the people who come here and play by the rules, and not rewards people who, try and, work around the system.
Let's get to the president's trade policies. What he called for yesterday, which was pretty simple, he said, look, I don't want to put tariffs on anybody. Why don't we all have no barriers? And then we'll let the chips fall where they may. Now, obviously, the other countries that we're competing with are not going to do that. When you look at the trade imbalance, Congresswoman, we have an annual trade deficit of $800 billion. That's almost $1 trillion of our cash going out or that's coming in. And you look at some of the tariff differences between the countries that we trade with. I mean, they're enormous, whether it's Germany, the EU, Canada. They have barriers. We don't. Doesn't make any sense to me and many other people in trying to protect our jobs. How do you stand right now on the president's policies on trade?
Well, listen, one of the great things about having the tax cuts and having the economy do so well is I think it puts us in the driver's seat on these negotiations. I think it puts us in the driver's seat on trade negotiations and really having it, when you have a growing economy, when the U.S. is the strongest, economic force and growing in the world, when we are the strongest military force, which we have to be and will be because we have fully funded our military. I supported that, by the way. My primary opponent attacks me for that very support. The bill the president signed to fully fund our military. And I think with the strong economy and our strong military, the president's in a good posture with North Korea and with the negotiations he is doing there. And I think it's the same way on the trade deal. So I think, I know there's a lot of, gnashing of teeth over the weekend about things, but when, the president wants to have, our interests first. Now, you heard Trudeau say, hey, I want to put Canadian interests first.
Right.
Well, of course he does. That's what he wants to do, and that's what we're going to do. And I think when you have a strong, growing economy, there are free trade ways of doing that. And I think when everyone gets back together after all the, gnashing of teeth over the weekend, I'm confident we're going to be able to have good trade policies that are better for the U.S. and with our growing economy will help everybody. And a strong U.S. economy and more open trade, more fair trade for everyone all around the world is going to be good for peace and prosperity everywhere.
Congresswoman, last night at the Tony Awards, you probably didn't watch it. I didn't either, but
I did
obviously
not.
I got 100 emails on it. So actor Robert De Niro, I think he's a great actor, but he comes on TV and 3 times he says F the president and he says the word and he gets a standing ovation. What is going on? Is that the sickest thing you've ever seen, or is it just me?
No, it's terrible. And, remember back, Michael Moore kind of started this during the Bush administration. People forget that, and then, you had people, on Republicans who, were that, not great about Obama either. I think, people are sick of this. I think when I go out and I talk to constituents, they want something besides somebody just being against everything and attacking everybody. That's why, ads like the Democrat in my race who's, just attacking the president. And actually, all 6 of them, they've had a bunch of debates, and all they do is get up and say who can attack the president more. And as somebody, I ran for State House first, right after President Obama was elected. And I went out and I went door to door. I knocked on over 10,000 doors, and I talked to people about what I wanted to do to lower their taxes, lower regulation, make a business-friendly environment in Virginia. And that's what I did when I got elected. And Virginia was number 1 for business several years after we won those elections in 2009. Now, after 4 years of a Democrat, Virginia's, way down on that list. So I think what people want to hear is, how can we work together? how can we get things done, and what are our ideas
What are you going to do,
make their
right?
lives
Keeping
better?
it positive.
And that's what I've always run on, and that's why I'm the only candidate in this race who's won, Democrat or Republican. I have won all my races, and I have gotten more votes in the 10th district than anybody. That top.
We're out of time, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara
more than Terry
Comstock.
McAuliffe,
We're out of time.
More than Ralph Northam.
I got to get the bottom of the hour news. Thank you, Barbara. Go to barbaracomstock.com. I got to go.